Today I live a perfect life because I live in Rio de Janeiro, at the
Wow.
last beaches in Rio de Janeiro, which is the paradise beaches for surfing and so on. So beautiful people, healthy people. You create your life the way you want it. I'm not afraid of anything because I know that I believe very much in myself, and I have several skills that are, I believe, hard to be. They're not normal to be together. I'm a good entrepreneur. I'm a nice guy. I am very worried about quality. I'm a very good designer. Say he only have $30 to do something. Man, each dollar counts. So he's gonna squish you.
Hi, friends. Today we have a special episode and a special guest. Today I'm interviewing an Upwork freelancer who, within 15 years on the platform, made over $5 million on Upwork alone. Today I'm going to ask him what it takes to make such an outstanding career. Please meet and greet Daniel Rothier. Hi, Daniel.
Hi there, Anton. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you again.
It's a pleasure to host you.
Absolutely.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. And yourself.
I'm good. I'm looking forward to our exciting conversation.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for the invitation. I feel very honored. By the way, I love your channel. I think that you're a great person helping many freelancers around the world, which we understand is quite a hard track to continue and basically even to start. I think to start usually is the hardest part on the platform because I see many friends and people that try and then give up at a certain point due to the initial challenges, which basically is the number of providers that there are with exceptional careers and profiles. And then when you're starting, you don't have any jobs, you don't know anybody,
Yeah,
so starting from ground. So congratulations for your channel, and I think you're very helpful
thank you.
and a
Thank you so much for this kind words.
absolutely,
Yeah,
and you're a very special person. Congratulations for that.
thanks. First, tell us a bit of your story. At what stage in your career you start freelancing? At what rate you started? How it was going? How fast you were progressing?
Sure. So my story of life, I mean, my story as a designer. I was born in a family of artists. My father was a painter. My father was a jazz record collector, and dealt
Cool.
with jewelry. He was a jeweler, and so on. So I was raised in a family of artists and entrepreneurs. Um, that's how my DNA comes from this environment. And then I had my professional life. I went to fine arts college. Then I did 8 years of postgraduate in art history. I worked on Brazil's biggest television network for 8 years as a creative director for all the digital products. And at that point, uh, when the internet started, because I'm from the very, very early days of the internet, I was a designer for BBS's using ASCII art on DOS to design the splash screens of BBS's. So that's pre-web era on dial-up connections.
Wow.
So from the very, very early days, I've seen it all. And when I started to work on, especially in the television, I always used, I mean, because I knew all the designers, the digital designers, because we had an association in Brazil that when we met everybody, etc. So we all knew it was a very small community, very nerdy, let's say at that time, and we always use the USA, the States, as a reference for the most advanced things were being done, especially because Brazil was way behind that at that point. So not so much today, but very much at that point. So I had to use only the United States as a big reference for technology, for design, what was doing in terms of web design at that point, and so on. So I always had a relationship with Americans in general, especially for this reason. I have, and then we contacted the designers in the USA. So then I always felt that you know what, I should be there. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
here in Brazil. I should be in the United States and doing design. But it was a pleasure, and I was very influenced at that point by the biggest designers and so on, and agencies. And then that was the point where I said, you know what, I want to work with Americans. Although I work on one of Brazil's biggest entertainment networks, at a certain point was the fourth biggest entertainment network in the world. Believe it or not, in terms of numbers, it was right after NBC. I think it was ABC, CBS,
Wow.
and NBC, and TV Global TV, which was the huge conglomerate, which it is. It's still to the present day, still growing. So that's where I took the decision. I should be working in the United States, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the United States, and I'll build an agency in New York. And then I for some reasons in my life, I never did. I met my wife, I had kids, and so on, and so it was for many reasons I didn't go. But then what happened is, for one of my greatest friends, uh, he did that. He said, Daniel, let's go with me, and so on. And I didn't go, but now he has a very large agency there. And so anyway, it was a plan, and that's where it started, right? So, but I really started to work freelancing for the USA many years later, when I started to work on the websites, the three biggest websites at that point, which was Get a Freelancer, that today's freelancer.com, was getafreelancer.com, um, odesk.com, and elance.com. And on both on Elance and Odesk, I always was one of the top 10 UX UI designers. And I kept working, to the point that they merged. Um, I think Odesk bought Upwork. Oh, sorry, Odesk bought Elance, and they became Upwork. So that's why in the total I have a total of 15 years on the platform. I think almost 16 years now on the platform,
Yeah, wow.
and that's the reason for my number of projects, which is now at 1,900,
Yeah, it's outstanding.
almost
More,
1,000.
almost 2000. Almost 2000.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
yeah. And then
It's
so
incredible.
today I live a perfect life because I live in Rio de Janeiro, at the
Wow.
last beaches in Rio de Janeiro, which is the paradise beaches for surfing and so on. So beautiful people, healthy people.
I'm gonna ask about beaches and everything a little bit later.
Okay, no problem. Sorry. So that's just
Especially.
let's carry on. This is, let's say, the answers of the first question.
Yeah, cool. It's a great story. A little bit more about this decision. 15 years ago,
Mhm.
or almost 16, when you started,
Mhm.
the number of full-time freelancers was like at least 3 times less than it's right now.
Mhm.
It wasn't an obvious decision at that point, I believe. So I want to ask you: was it like a conscious decision to choose full-time freelancing, or it was a kind of a temporary solution
I,
that over time became constant?
yeah, I understand. Sure. I at that point, I had Rio de Janeiro's biggest full service web agency. So we had all the biggest accounts, not only in Rio, but many also from São Paulo, which is in Brazil the biggest city, metropolitan city, with the most amount of money in business. So as we had a very, very high quality, at that point I only delivered top-notch websites for the biggest companies in
Yeah.
Brazil, etc. So as we had a big quality, agencies in São Paulo started to hire me also. So I had at that point, believe it or not, 45 employees. In between
Oh wow.
designers and coders and so on, I had a three-store house, beautiful house that we did all reformed that we built. It was super fancy, fashion and colorful, and was to bring clients so the clients would feel really cool. Oh, how cool! So I had an architect doing it with me, and so on. It was a beautiful place, and we had this nice agency, so I could, for like 1 year, I could work on both. And I told my partner at that time, listen, I'm starting to work online, and a year from now, I will leave the agency. So please prepare yourself. I'm giving you a 1 year notice, so that because we had a very good relationship, I said I would never go away and leave you, with a problem, because our deal was everything creative was with me, everything operational and HR was with him. So I said, listen, you're going to have to replace a creative director here. I suggest that you start now because we don't have many in Rio de Janeiro. They're almost in São Paulo. They're almost all in São Paulo. So I would recommend that you start now. And you know what he said? He said, oh, no, you're never going to leave the agency. And I said, well, please believe me, I'm really, really serious. I'm starting to work for the USA. I'm starting very slow because I don't have a profile yet. My profile is ridiculous. I don't have any jobs, but you know, I'm a guy that don't give up on things. You know, I never give up. I never did. So, and I never will. And at that point, I already had 10 years of road cycling experience. Amateur, of course, for cycling, but I trained 7 times a week to compete, especially in France and Italy. So I said, I don't give up, remember. And he didn't believe at that point. But I had these two. So I had the agency and I had the freelancing. And I started to do both at the same time, especially because the freelancing didn't took me a lot of time because I didn't know, I didn't have any jobs. And then I started very, very cheap doing logos for $50 or even less, sometimes $30 for a logo, which at that point was
Yeah, for you it was like a nothing.
I made a lot of money in the agency and I did $30 on logo. But I knew that was not the point. You know, I always knew that what I had.
Yeah.
I immediately understood I need a profile. I mean, a number of jobs, certain number of jobs to start to grow, and people would hire me more and more and more. And I knew that was just a continuous process, basically, right? If you do a good job, which I know I do, I always believe to myself that I'm going to grow naturally, but it will take time, and it will take a lot of time. I understood that would take a lot of time. It wasn't going to happen fast, even with much less freelancers. At that point, there were very cool freelancers with big profiles, you know. So I mean, so I said, it's
Of course, of course.
and that's how I did it. But believe me, it was much faster than a year. It was like 6 months, more or less, to grow to a profile, not to a big profile, but to a profile that already.
You were familiar with the process, so it wasn't so hard
Exactly.
for you because you already
Exactly.
had all the skills, all the knowledge of the processes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And the processes are simple. I mean, keep your quality all the time. That's as simple as that. Because if you don't keep the quality all the time, you won't get good reviews and you won't have more jobs. It's kind of very simple. I think quality was always my surname. You know, since the beginning, I said, you know what? I'm never going to negotiate quality in my life. Never. So if somebody tells, hey, can you make it cheaper, but do something not so good? I say, I'm sorry, sir. I don't work with that approach. That's not how I work, etc. And that happened in many, many places, even my company, even agencies. And my girl said, Daniel, I need this much faster. I need it in one day, but of course you won't reach the quality you do. Please do it like that. I said, I'm sorry, sir. I don't do that. It's not a part of me. I don't even know how to do that.
yeah,
It would make me very, very anxious to give you something.
yeah.
It's just not me. I'm very faithful to my principles and what I believe. You know, I strongly believe in my values and the things that I study, I like, etc. And I never negotiate. That's the only thing I don't negotiate in my life. And that's I think that's more about the process.
I love this approach, and I believe that it's. Later, I'm gonna have a question about your mental health, and I believe that this approach saves a lot of your. Um, Reduce the amount of anxiety and everything. Yeah, but we're gonna go deep dive on it a little bit later. And now I'm gonna ask you about another stuff. How do you manage to stay up to date with all the skills, the styles, techniques required in your field over such a long period of time? Do you have a personal educational plan for each year, or do you just go with the flow and learn along the way?
I am a trend hunter. Always was a trend hunter. What does that mean? I'm always looking for the next thing that's going to happen. Not the things that are happening now, but the things that are going to happen afterwards, right afterwards that. So let's say Figma is now using AI. Cool, but everybody knows that. What's the next things that are going to happen
Yeah.
with Figma? So that's what I'm always searching, always, since I started. It's just a natural thing for me. I never understood that so clearly. But people also made me this question many times, and I started to analyze how I do. And I think that what I realized is I'm a trend hunter. I'm always looking for the next thing.
Sounds good. Sounds like a mission. I'm a trend hunter.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because it's a mixture of art and technology, right, in my mind. And
Yeah.
I know that I need, and I love to be on the very edge of everything that is happening on design. So what happened is I'm always looking for the next thing, and both on technology and on design trends, and that's it. So I'm always working actively to be up to speed with software, but not only software, really trends. So I say next year the trend probably is indicating that we'll have more 3D or this or that kind of materials on let's say textures on graphic design. The colors potentially will be this and that. Although I don't believe in colors as definitions, because in my opinion, colors, they are completely related to the individual concept of each client. So I don't believe. Hey Daniel, is orange or blue better for this? I don't. There's no way. Sorry, I cannot answer this question because I need to understand a lot about the clients, the concept, their mission statement, the brand value, especially the brand values, the target audience, to know and then to suggest colors. So colors not so much, but everything else, let's say forms, shapes. Is it flat design? Is it isometric design? Is it all those? I start to study before to be up to speed, and then I start to look for tools. How do we do that, or automated processes for doing certain things? Because here I work very very fast, and so sometimes I need to automate process and so on. I think that's basically how I did it, and of course studying. Right, that's a very important thing. I never stopped, and I will never stop because I love to study digital design in general. So I'm always looking for publications and everything that is being thought. So who today are the designer thinkers? Let's say people that are thinking design and showing many things about design. So think really, I'm always reading these people and studying a lot. So every single day I study. I have at least half an hour to 1 hour of study. That's in my day to day life. I do that even sometimes early in the morning. I The first thing I do is sometimes pray and then study, uh,
Cool.
and that's it. I think that's how I keep up to speed. And but if you're really interested in design, it's not, believe it or not, not so hard because you love this.
Yeah.
I love design. The people that love design.
Because you love it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's to me, it's a pleasure, to study design. And as I always study many things that I like, and I learned how to study. Believe it or not, I didn't like to study on college because I was too young and I was very free and I didn't want to study, which now I don't regret because I understand that was my story. But but I said, you know what, I need to study. This is stupid. I need to study, and so then
And it took time for you to realize what things you love and what you don't. So it's natural that once you fell in love with design, you
yeah,
allocate a lot of your time and your passion and energy to this
yeah.
stuff.
No, but although let me tell you, I always knew that I wanted design. Not with
Oh,
that
all right,
name,
all
not
right.
with the name design, because I didn't know exactly what design was. But I always loved art. I always loved art history, and because my father was a painter, and so I lived. He was always teaching me, believe it or not, design too, because he was a designer too, but not a professional designer. But he loved to do logos, for instance, and he taught me how to do it. And showed. I was always looking at him how he was doing things and imitating and so on. But I knew that I loved design. I was just not responsible enough at that point, very young, free. I like to play the guitar and stay with girls and travel. And so, so I was not focused on college. But anyway, it helped me a lot. I learned a lot, and then I became after that I was already a professional. From there, I went to already work on the biggest Brazilian agency at that point, an advertisement agency, where I started the my career as a designer. So I was just not responsible enough. But then after that, I everything changed, and I became a professional designer, and then everything started correct.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. Let's move to another question. Once you switched from the Brazilian agency to the freelancing,
Mhm.
have you ever had some self doubts, or like have you later maybe felt insecure about your future career? Let's say that you can at some point lose your best clients and don't have an equal replacement, or something like that.
No, I never felt that. I read your question.
I knew that you answered like that.
I never felt that, and I don't feel that whatsoever. I strongly believe in the energy of the universe, and I very strongly believe that what you do is what's going to happen to you. You create your own energy, and you create your life the way you want it. Uh, it's just a matter of understanding. The energy that you transmit is exactly the same energy that's coming back. And that's not something from the universe, something strange or esoteric, nothing like that. If you push a button, the button will push you. You know, the law of action and reaction in physics. And physics is exactly what defines the whole universe. So that's something very
Yeah,
natural. So people don't see it, so they don't believe it. It's like when they created the first bulb, with electric energy. People said that's not going to work, never going to work, because they didn't see the energy flowing on the cable. But that's ridiculous. The energy is there. It's just, I can see it. The human being has this thing that if they don't see it, they don't believe it. They think it's not there, but it is. It's just laws of physics. So it's not esoteric. This is a law of physics, action and reaction. We know that whatever you do comes back. You push this is going to push you back, depending on the material, depending on the series of things, it will push you back. So that's it. I just do that. So I'm not afraid of anything because I know that I believe very much in myself, and I have several skills that are, I believe, hard to be. They're not normal to be together. I'm a good entrepreneur. I'm a nice guy. I am very worried about quality. I'm a very good designer. So I have a series of let's say characteristics, I would say, that are
yeah, accomplishments that can also fuel your self-confidence also.
exactly. So
Yeah,
I believe a lot in me, and I know that that will never happen. I'm not worried about losing clients. I lost many of them already, and it happened for many reasons, not because of my quality,
yeah,
because they
for
did other
sure.
things in their lives, and which is totally natural. On Upwork, people do other things sometimes, and that's it. So it's just believe in yourself, and start to realize that you are creating your own world, your own reality with your attitudes and the things that you think on a daily basis. So if you're a negative person, oh my God, this is never going to work. Oh my God, I'm not making money. Oh my God, that's exactly what's going to happen because
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
thinking about it.
for sure.
If you know I'm going to be a massive success this week, I'm going to close 5 deals, 10 deals. It's going to happen. It's
Yeah,
perhaps not
sure.
this week, but the next week. So it's just what you think.
Yeah. Daniel, please tell us what is the longest relationships with one client you had, and what is average for like is usual for working with one client.
Sure. So I think the longest I had, I think was around what I think 6 or 7 years. That was
Wow.
the longest. First, and I have others. So for instance, just today I had a meeting with a client that now changed companies. He went to work on another company, but we always work together. So now he's bringing new projects for me to work on, and if that also configures a long relationship, that would be
Yeah,
more
for
than 6 years.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be more than six
Like
years.
client for life.
Precisely, we became good friends. He is a very, very cool guy, very interesting person, and so uh, we're going through very similar phases in our lives. He just had a baby. I have a small daughter. He likes to work out. I also do. So we have a lot to talk about it. So he's a very nice guy. We always work together. So I think that's it. I think that is around the biggest 6 to 7 years. I think in this case maybe more, but that's not the usual. I have some of those, and I have some smaller ones like 2 years, 3 years. Um, and I think that's, I would say, around 30 to 40% of my clients. It's a big number. I think it's not something important. It has an expression. I mean, it's not something. It's important because why is that? Because I invest a lot on relationships. Basically, there are two ways of looking at a job. You can either look at a job saying, okay, I'm going to do this job the best I can, and okay, it's done. Period. Or there's really the relationship, and then I already start to talk to some clients, understanding that this is an ideal client for a relationship, because there are clients that they don't need the relationship, they just need a small job, but they just need something to be used now, and so on and so on. But there are other clients that they have really demands for a very long time. There's also the clients that lie, the clients that tell you that they do have a lot of demands, but they don't. And it's a very also very usual technique to say, oh, listen, if this job goes well, I'll have many others for you. That's a very common situation. So I'm very
I heard that 1,000 times. Yeah.
Precisely, me too. Every day, basically. I think every day, almost every day, I listen to the same thing.
Yeah.
So I basically I don't believe it anymore. So, or I keep my distance, but I understand that some of them really do. Some of them quite obvious that they do, and then I understand that they really do. And then I start to work on the relationship. I really start to invest heavily on the relationship. For instance, delivering more than he requested, giving him like little presents, like design presents and so on, and so gifts and so on, so that he would like me and keep on with the relationship. But usually only the good work is already enough to keep it going. If you communicate really well and you avoid friction on the relationship, it needs to be seamless all the time, and of course he needs to feel the honesty of everything all the time. And if you keep a good work and honesty, and always talking to the client as much as possible, and then you can keep a relationship. And to me, it's a lot more important that relationships to me are more important than the job itself by itself, because I think that then you have to sell more. It's less time selling, more time investing really on the work itself.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds good. Let's move to the next question about maybe some regrets, because it's also important. Because working as an individual contractor has some limits in regards of scale of the project. Don't you regret that you didn't work in global companies throughout your career? Because probably you could have a bigger impact working with projects with millions of users.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have this dream?
Well, first of all, I already did that throughout basically all my career before Upwork, because I worked on many places, but the biggest I started on was Brazil's biggest television network. So I used to work on one of the biggest advertisement agencies in Brazil, but that was just because my uncle was the owner. And then I went to Brazil's biggest television network. I started out there as an art assistant, what is called, which is basically a little slave. You're the very lowest kind of level there. And I grew in quite a short time. I think around a year, I was already creative director for all their digital products. Because at that time, you didn't have many. By the way, you had very little, very small number of really good creative directors and good designers. The market was way smaller. So, and I always had a leadership characteristic. I like to lead people. At that point, I was not really good at it, but I already had a very proactive attitude. Nowadays, I've learned over the years how to much better manage people. But at that point, I already had a very proactive attitude, and I really liked to manage, especially designers and coders and copywriters. So I started there, the television. I delivered there 1,200 websites approximately, in between several things, entertainment, journalism, you name it, like everything, soap operas, TV shows, etc., etc. We did almost all the websites. So that was an impact on millions of people. By the way, it's the biggest in Brazil, so that was really, really huge. Then Expedia came to Brazil with Microsoft. At the time was an investor itself that worked there. So they tried to bring to Brazil, and I was hired to implement the operation. So that also impacted millions of people. And then I created my own. I created my own hotel operations. I sold it to investors, and then I started to work with. I created my own full service web agency, which became Rio de Janeiro's biggest full service web agency. And at that point, I got the biggest accounts first in Rio, and then I started to get the major accounts from São Paulo. So for instance, the biggest telephony operator, like the ones for cell phones and so on, major one called Vivo here in Brazil is one of the biggest, if not the biggest. And then I started to work also with very large accounts like Samsung and other very big ones. And I learned that I always knew, by the way, from my experience, that when you work on very big companies, you also have to do a lot of politics, because you have to deal with many managers. Manager of this, the director of marketing, the creative director, the manager of traffic, the manager of this, several.
Yeah.
And they are not always aligned. On many cases, they are not exactly creatively aligned, or they don't exactly want the exact same thing. So you need to learn how to deal with them with a very political positioning.
So you spent more time on politics than on creative part.
Precisely. And also the end results of projects are not the best, because everybody says something, need to deliver to everybody. And so unfortunately, the creative results are very rarely the best one, because you need to, so it looks more like a Frankenstein, it's like, so
Yeah.
so that gave me the feeling that, that's not ideal for me, like, because I'm very connected to the product. I'm very connected to the design process and to do all the best to my clients. Of course, if they want to change, they change. It's very normal. I'm always suggesting what I think is best as a technical, as an expert. I give them all my opinions. And if they want to change it, great. But at least we're doing something together to get to a great product. A lot different than many people changing the project. So I said, you know what, to me, that's much better. And I'm very happy with that. Size to me is not so important nowadays. The quality is, I think.
I started this question like to ask you about regrets, but I just got the feeling that this was one of the reasons that you made your agency. So be closer to the final product, to the creative part of the job.
Precisely, yeah. To basically, to ensure the success of my clients.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
when you start your career, you think that you are an artist. Oh, I'm going to do design. I'm going to do beautiful things, or art pieces that go to a museum. But design is not about that, unfortunately. Design is about communicating a concept to a target audience to reach a business goal, basically. There are almost many other factors that influence this, but in summary, this is what you're doing. You're trying to communicate something to a target audience, and it's going to generate business, whatever it is, sales or branding,
Yeah.
many things, but you're going to generate the goal, the business goal. So you don't own the product. And to be honest, not even the client owns the product. Who owns the product is the market. Like, and it's going to be measured by if it's a success or not. So what I want is my clients to be successful, so that I can be successful with them. So and it took me some years to gradually understand that, because you get more mature, of course, over the years. and you start to understand this is not mine. I'm just the vehicle to make it be born and happen. So I'm just
Yeah.
the tool to make it happen.
Yeah. In the end of the day, it's all about business.
Precisely, and reaching the
Yeah.
goals, right? The client should be very happy.
Sure.
You should be very proud of the results. Look how cool! This is a professional. It looks like I'm really evolving over time, and this is a personal, very good feeling. It shows that I'm still evolving. I'm ever evolving. Design is important. You never stops, as we already discussed. Trends and so on. It changes dramatically over and over again. So, which is totally normal. So I'm always very proud when I do something very special and say, wow, okay, this is really cool. And most of all, my client is super happy, and it's going to be a major success. So to me, it's all about that, so that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's move to another topic. Most of my audience is, I believe, would be interested in about some analytics in work with clients, because sometimes you are making a lot of stuff, you are busy all the time, but not earning money. It's like many freelancers face this problem. What metrics in work with clients do you track? How many hours, like with a certain client, the number of correction rounds, maybe something else? Is generally, do you rely on analytics when making decisions to maybe to lift the rate for a specific client, or even maybe finish working with them?
Mm-hmm.
How do you like your mind process?
Yeah, I track, I think, everything basically. The number of hours for sure I track, because I need to understand is my profit margin, right, all the time. So I work with both fixed price and hourly projects, and they work completely different, as we know. But still, then I also work with unlimited revisions, right, which is
Mhm.
risky in a way, but I always did that because to me is ultimately, as I said, quality is my focus. So my main characteristic, I say, is quality. I don't deliver without. I only deliver top-notch quality, and I don't negotiate that. So that's why I work with unlimited revisions, and it's very hard because it involves exactly numbers at all points. So I track everything that is being done. I track all the revisions. Um, Sometimes there are clients that do less revisions. There are clients that do medium revisions, and there are clients that do a lot of revisions, like sometimes months of revision. And then if it gets to a point at months, which then I can see that my profit margin is dramatically dropping, I call the client on the phone. I schedule a meeting and I say, client, listen, I need to discuss it with you. Let me explain. So, or I gave you, of course, unlimited revisions, and this is exactly what I do. And if you tell me to do it, I'm going to do it without discussion. But if we can talk in a rational way, using good sense, let me show the numbers, right? I'm already here working for this number of months, with this number of hours invested on the project, and this is already very, very far from my estimated number of hours. And then I go discussing with the client what possibilities we have and so on. So you need to have this mature approach, also talking to clients in a normal way, in a serious way, but in a mature way, right? So you can never be afraid of clients. When you start on a platform, you're always very afraid of client because he can give you a bad review. He can,
Mhm.
don't like what you're saying. He can be, angry or something. But over the years, you get older, and then you're not afraid anymore because you know exactly what you're doing. So you talk to them, and also you treat him in a completely different way. And so one of the only advantages of getting old, I would think, is life experience to know how to deal with not only numbers but also problems and challenges on the day-to-day life with design projects. For instance, the client's not liking anything, or also you need to sit down and talk very calmly, and something completely normal on design projects. So we understand that some factors are normal on design projects, and then we need to expose that to the clients and talk to him in a natural way. So you need to know your numbers. I think it's very important to know your numbers all the time, so that you can see what's happening in reality, in terms of production, like how many hours you're investing, That's important.
For sure, for sure. And another question somehow related to this. Let us pick your brain in terms like your experience on this platform. What are your red flags in working with new client? How do you early recognize that certain client can bring nothing but headache?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of them can be a massive headache. Thank God I have more or less one client of those per year. Is now my
One per year.
statistics. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I
Statistics.
don't know if God is protecting me,
Not
or
that many. Not that many.
yeah. So and, something's happening, or my angels, somebody is working to help me because I had a lot more in the past. Also, it depends. Also, I think it changes quite a lot, honestly speaking, with your price point, right? I mean, because what happens is we kind of have very little budgets. Let's say he only have $30 to do something. Man, each dollar counts. So he's
Yeah.
gonna squish you to get the $30. Exactly. But when you go to higher budgets, then you have people that are more intelligent, naturally, and think in a more corporate way, understanding, as I said, the process of design. So it's a more mature discussion. But the headaches, they still happen. It's funny because it's very normal that they cheat on you. So when you're discussing the project, they're very nice guys, etc. As soon as you start, they become a big problem. Oh, surprise! I'm that client that you were expecting this year. Congratulations, my name is. So it's complicated. But then you need to go with the flow. You need to keep your calm, maintain exactly the
Yeah.
same relationship, but understand what he wants, and mostly try to understand it as better as you can the briefing. So all the conceptual information that you need to do a good project, and then just keep going and keep your head down. It's like a triathlon kind of sport. Keep your head down and keep going. Keep going. Just don't stop.
Yeah.
Going, don't stop.
Sure. You can just quit. You need to finish
Precisely.
the race anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, and there's also something else which is called acceptance, right? We forget there is this concept which is called acceptance. That is, you can also always think, listen, if I've got nothing to do about it operationally, the best thing that I can do is accept it in my heart and in my brain, which is much easier because I once I heard a phrase that says, uh, if you accept it, it will hurt less, and then you can stay with that. So think about it, right? I think that's another
Yeah.
possible solution for that situation.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great mindset. I believe that it's very useful.
Thank you.
Let's shift slowly to your lifestyle questions because I know that you already live in paradise because Brazil is paradise.
Yeah, exactly.
But many newcomers to freelance dream of building a successful career so they can travel a lot, maybe work from exotic places and live their best life. What changed it in your case? Do you travel a lot? What changed in case of lifestyle?
Mhm. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. I work on I look at Upwork as my full time job. I don't look at it as a freelance platform, which changes quite a lot. I think the way you behave in relationship to your work, because if you look like I know the dream of traveling all around the world and so on. I never thought of that because well, I did it because first of all, I love my city. I already know the whole road because I travel all around. And to be honest, I don't have the necessary focus to work when I travel. I don't have that.
Yeah.
I've tried already a few times. And when I travel, something changes on my mind that I just want to go and do things, you know, go to the beach or know the places and know whatever. So it's very hard to me to work when I travel. I always take my notebook and laptop and I'll sit down and try to work, but I'm not able. It's just my mindset's completely different. I think when I sit here I start to work. I always had a very important rule since the very beginning. I never once in my life, perhaps once or twice, but never in my life, I worked using a t-shirt and my pajamas. Never, never did that. I always to work. Uh, my routine is, by the way, always have been. I I wake up really early. I go and do my sports. Either in the past I did road cycling. I started out in triathlon, then I went to road cycling, and now today I do amateur bodybuilding. And then I start really early in the morning. I go to the gym. I do 1 hour gym, come back sometimes more 1 hour also cardio, come back to my office house, and then I take my bath. I put a shirt on. I put a pant, not pants sometimes not so much, I also I dress myself completely. I put perfume, believe it or not, to work at home
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that helps me with my mindset. And then I start to work because then I'm ready to enter on this world here, right? This was a technique that I created, I don't know, 15 to 16 years ago when I started. Because I realized that changed my mindset and I worked a lot better because I was then, now I am the designer, this,
Yeah.
because one thing or not, people change their masks, right? Now I'm a designer, then I'm a father. Today I'm very, very consistent on my personality. I don't change almost anymore because I know exactly what I want. I know my values, and now I'm almost 50, so I know exactly what I do for my legacy. I'm very, let's say, concise and consistent, but not so much in the past. And then, but I understood that if I wanted to do something correct or not, if I wanted to grow on the platform, I had to be a businessman and a designer from 9 to 6, full time. And so I always
Yeah.
looked at the platform never as a full time job. Sorry, never as a freelancer platform, always as a full time job. And that's exactly the first decision that I made to say, how am I grow? How am I gonna grow inside the platform? So
Yeah.
this was a very important decision because it helped me all throughout my life to grow on the platform. Because if you put a pajamas, or if you are next, again,
Yeah.
this is just
Yeah.
my personal. If you're next to paradise, you're on a waterfall here. How are you gonna keep a
Your
mindset?
mind is
It's already
next to
there.
waterfall,
Yeah.
not with this client's project. Yeah.
At least myself, people are very different from each other. I know that we have many examples of people that travel all around the world and work naturally. They have this kind of focus. They can work now. They sit down. They organize themselves. I'm going to work 2 hours now or 3 hours. They do exactly that. They do a very good job, and then they go do something else. The Europeans, they have this lifestyle. First, in Europe, sometimes you're on a Italian mountains. I say, if you're in a drugstore at 3 p.m., you don't have any more because everybody went cycling. It's all closed. Why is the drugstore closed so weird? Or whatever. It's
Yeah.
a bakery. You don't have a bakery. So it's a completely different lifestyle. So they have this culture, right? I'm from Brazil. I'm from South America. We don't have this culture. We work from six, I think, a lot closer to the US. So I think that's pretty much it. I think I always thought about the platform as a full time job and how I would grow inside it, and what would be my techniques and to do that. And this was an important one.
Cool. It worked out for you. I believe that newcomers who listen now our video can note these techniques and use them in their life. You just mentioned your workout routine, that you are about your training session and in the morning. But aside from that, we all know how stressful freelancing can be. What do you do else to preserve your mental health? Maybe like meditation, yoga, or something like that, or reading. What can you recommend our listeners to preserve their mental health?
Yeah, so I do many things about that, honestly. First of all, I always had a very rich spiritual life. I do have, and I always had, I think for the last 20 years or a little bit more, I always did a lot of spiritual studying and so on. So I'm a very spiritual guy, and that's exactly what all helped my life, is to understand how the universe works, how God works, how, which ultimately is the most important one, but how the whole universe works in terms of energy. Because to me, everything in the world is just about energy. And so I always study that a lot, and keep studying, because that's what led me to the most important values in my life, which is, for instance, the most one, charity. Charity to me is the most important value in my life. It's like helping people. I love to help
Mhm.
people. I help a lot of people, always did. I help young designers. I help people around me, mostly in my society here, my community. Um, I just help. I love to help because it's a part of me. I mean, I learned that, by the way, with my uncle. So I had from my father. I had my father and one uncle, his brother. My father was not a guy, was not a charity guy, etc. Although he was a very bright guy, a painter, an amateur designer too, loved to do logos and so on. But he was not this kind of guy. He had other qualities. But my uncle was a guy really focused on charity, always helping one guy. Then he was helping this other person. This woman didn't have somewhere to live. This other didn't have clothes. It was always helping somebody. And that, I remember exactly the day I was sitting on the porch of our little farm. We had a little farm here close to Rio, beautiful place, etc. A lot of flowers and so on. And something touched me, man. It was like really, like I had like an insight, and I said, "You got to do this for the rest of your life." Simple sentence. I heard it. I said, "Okay." So I would. I made that kind of promise to whatever it was in the universe, and I did that for all my life. I helped people in any way I can. And I don't do this for any kind of reward. I do that because something that makes me feel happy. And so this is a very important thing. The other important thing that I always done is to study human sentiments and feelings. I think today nobody really knows their feelings. Uh, by the way, today I think also many people stop thinking. For instance, my son, which if I tell him something about something in the world, whatever, he goes immediately to check it either on YouTube or TikTok. If he don't find this on YouTube or TikTok, he comes back to me and say, "Listen, you lied to me. That doesn't exist because it's not on TikTok." Okay,
Yeah.
this is completely hard to deal with because the new generation, man, it's like they're completely manipulated in society, not to think anymore. And
Yeah.
that's very I see that very clearly today on Upwork when clients come to me and say, "Hey, Daniel, I tried to hire cheaper designers. Now I'm on the fourth attempt, and nobody gives me anything, even close to what I want." I said, "Well, congratulations. So I think you learned something, right? You want to do
Yeah.
it good,
Yeah.
do it with a professional, don't you know?" So they do this. And that's exactly for the same reason, because nobody thinks anymore, right? They want something, they want ready things, they want formulas, they want things that are like templates, or they want to learn Figma, or they want to learn things that, to me, honestly, are not important, because the software is going to change. The template is going to change, the style is going to change, and if you don't know the basics, how to think as really a design, what's the concept, the target audience, the brand value,
Yeah,
you're never going to
sure.
do a real job. I know how to use Figma. Oh, congratulations! Now do
Yeah,
something
because
special.
they skip the thinking process. They skip the thinking process. They already need final decision. They
Right.
people stopped reading and stopped thinking about the concept, about the
Precisely.
process. Yeah.
And that reflects on your real life. Because, for instance, if you don't know what you're feeling, if you ask anybody in the world how they're feeling, they're gonna give you one of two answers: I'm feeling bad, or I'm feeling good. And that's a big mistake, because if you analyze really how many feelings a human being I think it's something around 30 something feelings, different feelings. And I think that it's very important that you understand each one of them, so that all points you can look at yourself and say, "Why am I super angry right now? What's happening with me?"
Hmm.
Stop now and think a little bit about that. Then, What happened yesterday? Yesterday, something told me, somebody said something I didn't like, and then I was frustrated, and that made me angry. And then my wife, and then you start to think with the process exactly what you're feeling, and then say, okay, wow, all right. So it's
Yeah.
gonna pass. Just let it go. It's ridiculous. Don't be angry about a cup. That's ridiculous. You have a lot more to think about. And then boom, it's gone. And now I'm not angry anymore because I analyze my feeling. If you don't do that, you let months and years about without thinking that, get to a certain point you're in a very complicated situation because you cannot, and then you start neurosis, paranoia, and then you need to go to shrink and start to work with your, which is also a very good idea, by the way. In any case, I'm strongly like therapy and so on, which I did for many years. I love therapy, psychotherapy, and so on. I love it. I think it's very important. It's the health of your, or exactly of your brain, of your intellectual life, your feelings, and because you can work on your body, you can work on your brain, and you can work on your soul. I like to work on the three of them. Always did, always will. That's the important thing. I always worked on the three of them. I think that's how I
Sure.
maintain sanity.
Yeah, it sounds super complex approach, and I see it's working well for you.
It is, it is.
And can you name yourself a book lover? Please share a couple of books that had a huge impact on your career and on your mindset.
Sure. So I think that basically, I always read books about everything in general. I think I love to read. I always read a lot because on the schools that I studied and then college and then postgraduate art history, I had to I always studied a lot about art. That was something from the ground up because my family had many art books because we always dealt with jewelry design. My family who dealt with jewelry design and then antiques, old things to be for that kind of thing sold and bought, very expensive kind of antiques and jewelry. My father also dealt with expensive watches, and so I was born in this kind of thing. So I always saw those kind of books. Then I had to read a lot about artists in general. Then college and so on, I had to read all the books about design, the biggest design thinkers, the references and so on. When I started out in the internet in the very early days, the most important for me was Jacobs Nielsen, books about user experience. To me, that was a guy
Mm-hmm.
that created user experience, very well, not created, but brought the relationship in between ergonomy, right? So the way that human beings deal with machines, he brought that kind of understanding and knowledge and transformed it to interfaces, right? To user interface. And to me, at the beginning, he was my north, right, in terms of your experience in the very early days of the internet, because I always understood there were better ways to do user interface, especially with the results, like how to make users really understand visual hierarchies. Because when you look at an interface, you are already learning the interface. So there's an initial relationship in between you and the interface that is your first understanding of that interface. So there is a learning curve. You have a learning curve. The shorter it is, the better for everybody, right? This is especially important for web applications or mobile apps, because now, let's say, promotional marketing websites also have that kind of learning curve, but they are not so let's say, not so heavy on the learning. Web applications are
Mm-hmm.
really, really heavy on the learning. So that was important to me. And then after that, I read books with designers, thinkers, and psychologists. I also always read about spirituality. And then I started to study on the internet, which I always did, like all the main design magazines, medium.com. Very important to me to read the articles of everybody, the thinkers, that are thinking design, thinking trends. Trends also, publications are very important to me. So I'm always looking at everything like that, or all that, those kind of things to keep up to speed. And I think that's my say my conjunction of books. Sometimes books,
Mhm.
sometimes online reading, which I also do a lot.
Another question about your mindset. Do you set goals for yourself? What is next in your freelance journey?
All right. Yes. Yeah, I do have I establish goals all the time. For instance, revenue. How do I increase my revenue? How can I optimize the operation? How can I create better flows, operational flows, internal operational flows, and so on. So I'm always thinking about how to improve and setting goals. I need to be better at this. So let us establish this goal. How can I improve on this? How can I improve on customer relationship, for instance? How can I improve? And then I work on that until I feel that I reached that goal. Now let's create another one. I'm always creating goals. Right now, for instance, my new goal is I'm going now to sell coding again. So I'm building a large structure, large in the sense that
Wow.
I will have a coordinator. I will have people around to do quality assurance, because when I start to sell coding, I want to be sure that I'm delivering the exact same quality that I delivered to the US. My signature, I want to be sure that I'm going to give the Daniel Rothier's guarantee of quality on coding also. And to that, I'm building a structure to do that on Upwork. By the way, I'm talking to many coding providers on Upwork. I'm already started the process. I'm doing that almost for a month already, because I want to be sure, creating the infrastructure to be sure that I'm going to deliver it correctly, professionally, like I always did. So, for instance, that's my next challenge. And then
Cool.
that's what I love. I'll start to sell. It's going to be a massive, let's say, for instance, demand, I would suppose, and then I have to deal with it and I have to deliver. So I'm already building a big structure around it to be sure to deliver it properly. And it's very exciting, right? Because I'm always going to double the operation now in terms of size. It's a great pleasure. I'm going to deliver everything. I'm planning on delivering from small marketing websites up to much larger websites in, let's say, 50 pages kind of website, which is normally another kind of technology or not, but it can be different. Then going to visual editors, then going to mobile apps and full stack. I want to also go to full stack to deliver full blown web application or whatever you need, any kind of software, and do again my quality, deliver my signature on top. So it's a big challenge. Now
Awesome.
it's gonna
It's
start now, but
yeah.
probably yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna
it
be a
looks
success.
great.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you like I didn't expect that you gonna tell me something like so massive. I just thought that you're gonna say yeah sure I'm trying to like be 5% better, but no you are building new Titanic inside of
Yeah.
your office.
Thank
It's
you so
great.
much.
It's
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to see the results. I'm excited to see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cool, super cool. Um, I have one bonus question, special question.
Mhm.
I'm working on a special episode, and I want to ask you a question. What would you do to earn $1 million on Upwork if you start today,
Um,
as quickly as possible?
it is totally possible. First of all, I think it's totally possible. I think that anybody that believes will do that. But you can't give up. You cannot give up. You just can't give up, right? And you need to be very faithful to what you believe on and believe in. By the way, you need to believe and have your very strong values, especially honesty, goodwill, and open mindedness. You gotta stick to those values, and you gotta deliver quality, right? Because one client's gonna tell the other, and then you're gonna get good ratings and so on. But you're never gonna get to quality if you're not strong inside of yourself. So you got to be very strong inside your values to deliver quality and keep a goal. And never give up. I see so many talented professionals, especially from Brazil, that talk to me and say, Upwork, I already tried that. Man, it's so hard. I gave up. Don't do that. Man. Just continue. It's the
Yeah.
biggest platform in the world for remote work. So, man, don't give up. Invest in it. even if it's a part-time job, but invest in it because you're gonna grow. Believe you're gonna grow, but you need to deliver good work, all the time, and you gotta be honest all the time. So it's by the way, you gotta be honest all the time in your life, but on the platform, you need to be honest. Otherwise, you're
especially.
never gonna do the long run, right? You're gonna naturally. So I think that
Yeah.
those are most important points.
Yeah, I believe that I also met a lot of freelancers who can be successful, but they don't have this faith in themselves. They just give up after a couple of unsuccessful attempts. It's
Absolutely. And I think
it's not
also
working this way.
don't forget the following: the JSS, so your job success score changes.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be static. It changes over the weeks. So let's say you had two bad jobs right now, but then you get another job. So now let's say your JSS drops to 80%, like a bad situation. But that's going to change because time continues.
yeah,
So now you get another job and you do 100%. Another job 100%. Okay, 2 weeks from now you're 100% JSS. So, of course, depends on the number of jobs, total number of jobs, and
yeah,
what you're doing, but especially in parallel. But that's the calculation. Time goes on, time don't stop, it
yeah,
goes on, and
sure.
you always can change, improve your GSS with time. So don't give up because that's GSS not a fixed number. It changes over time. So you can improve, get better, and just work on the GSS. That's something
Yeah.
important not to forget. You can improve.
Yeah, and it's gonna work out anyway. I don't see any scenarios if you invest your time, energy, and efforts that it won't work out. I don't know how
Precisely.
it can happen. You just should match with should catch up with the quality, believe in yourself,
Precisely.
and invest your energy and time, and it's gonna
Exactly,
work.
exactly, exactly. I think that's exactly. I think one of the main reasons I was successful now because I always knew the professional that I am because I already had that in the past. So I
Yeah.
already had a very long career of success. I was always successful. I mean, I was always recognized as a really good profession, which I'm very proud of. It's not from an ego perspective. I don't care about none of that anymore. Just really, really happy to deliver good work in the world, to be a good professional, be really. That's what I want to tell my daughter. I want to teach my daughter to become a great woman because no, to do good things in
Yeah.
the world, help a lot of people. And then, so I already was successful when I came to work. So I just need, it's just a continuation of my success. Do exactly what you were doing. Hard work, working many hours a day, sometimes over 12, 13 hours a day. I don't care. I love it. I work 24 hours. My cell phone is always me. I respond to clients Saturday, Sunday. I don't care. I love my work. So just do exactly what you were doing before. It's going to be a success naturally. It's exactly what happened. I just always believed very much in myself, my potential as a designer, thinker, and as a creative director also. That's very important.
Yeah. I feel like you speak so natural, and I was hard to believe that you didn't engage with social media on a regular basis. So, are you active on any social media? Maybe tell the listeners where we can find you and where you are the most active.
I don't like social media. I don't believe in it. I don't spend any time of it. Sometimes what 10 minutes a day maximum. Very hard effort because all my friends do and so on. But social media to me is just a big lie. Come on, just people living fake lives and spending a lot of time looking at other people's lives. Which to me is honestly a waste of time. Of course, I understand it's a very important, let's say, piece of the internet in terms of the dynamics of people and but myself personally, I am not active on none of them. I have very little, especially because I don't like to expose neither myself or my family. And I'm always working. I'm always studying, or I'm with my daughter playing, on the little cat, the Princess Castle, which to me is a lot more interesting than social media. And so I rather not, because I have so many other things that I think are more important in my life. Uh, and it's also an addiction, right? I think that it becomes an
Yeah.
addiction to many people. Where they spend, sometimes I see my friends like we're here having a good time, lunching, etc. And the guy's on the phone. I said, can you please stop that and look at me? Like, can you talk to me? And I said,
Yeah, sure.
why are you here on the phone? Look at the beautiful place we are. You're losing this opportunity of so just so now when we go to rep, when my group of friends we go to rep, we have a deal. Everybody leaves the smartphone on the corner.
Yeah,
Nobody touches it.
sure.
This is the deal until we finish the whatever lunch we have. And it's a good. We
Yeah,
always
it's
had
so
that in
addictive.
my house. Also, that was always a rule with my kid or my daughter, my wife. We always had the deal: no cell phones on the table, no
Yeah.
mobile phone on the table. That's strictly important because we are going to talk the whole time. At lunch, I want to talk. I want to know what you're doing, how you went to school, how you did that test, and so on. I like to and discuss, talk. I like to talk so we are interacting with real people.
So it's been more than an hour of our conversation. It was amazing. I guess it's time to finish it for now. First of all, I want to tell you it was a pleasure to host you, Daniel. And the question for our listeners, if any of you have any questions to Daniel, please leave them in the comment section. We will kindly ask Daniel to answer all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It was a pleasure. Congratulations for your marvelous channel. I think that you're doing a great service for many freelancers around the world. And I think that's so important, because then it become a mechanism, a tool to help people again. And I think that when you're pushing people upwards, everything, the universe is very happy with it. And I think that mostly you're helping. I don't know. I mean, millions. I don't know what your audience is, but whatever it is, the number, it doesn't matter. You're helping freelancers to work remotely, and I think that that's a beautiful thing you're doing. So congratulations for being that special person. It's an honor. It was an honor, really, for me to be here and to know you.
Thank you, Daniel. Hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone. See you on the channel.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.